All right. We're going bowling. How about that,
Bowling
Mike?
for the first time officially since 2014. I know we went in 2021, but we didn't get the required amount of wins. We got that weird back end rule where if you're 5-7 and have the highest APR and a team backs out or a team doesn't make it. So it feels great to do it in October too, just to have the
Yeah,
rest of the
right.
season as house money for the team because
That's
you could
right.
tell the last 2 years they got close. They got to 8 wins and 5 wins with a couple games left. Oh, sorry, they got to 4 wins and 5 wins with a couple games left, and it's just so much pressure on the team every single game. To have that pressure alleviated, I think they're going to be playing loose. You get a bye week, to get rested and prepare for the home stretch. Big home game on November 4th against Ohio State. Anybody who can make it needs to be at that game. That is going to be the best atmosphere of the season for a most likely undefeated Ohio State team. I think this is the best shot we have against Ohio State since we joined the Big Ten. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves,
No,
far ahead
let's
of
not.
ourselves. This was not the prettiest game, but it doesn't matter. A 17-point win in Big Ten opponent in Big Ten competition is a 17-point win. I am over the moon, not only because we're bowl eligible, but for my wallet.
There you
I bet
go.
this game everywhere I could. I got the line at 4.5. I bet it again at 5.5. I took an alternate spread of 9.5 and 13.5, and tied those into a bunch of parlays too for later in the day and for NFL Sunday. So good weekend for Mikey here.
Set you up nicely. Yes.
Sure did.
Yeah, Indiana
Sure
and Tom
did.
Allen had some really ugly trends going into this game that worked in our favor. And then, of course, going bowling and what that meant. And gambling, a lot of times the hard part is not knowing if the team you're gambling on is going to come mentally ready to play in the games, and sometimes they
Yep.
don't. But when you know, and it's not like every time you know it's going to count and you're going to win, but it helps an awful lot when you know that your team has something to play for, especially that
Absolutely.
big. So
And when Richie and I interviewed the Indiana guy from Hoosier Huddle, he said basically like this team you punch them one time and they're not going to be able to come back from it. They're just going to fold, and that's kind of what happened. Um, I predicted a first quarter turnover that would turn the game. It ended up being a second quarter turnover. It was the blocked kick, but even then, we looked a little shaky to end that first half. We obviously got the muff punt and we got the field goal to put us up at the half, but the offense was very inconsistent in the first half. Gavin came out, and I thought Gavin looked incredible in the first quarter. He was throwing dimes. He was looking very decisive and confident. He only had 4 dropbacks in like the first, I want to say, 20 minutes of the game. Um, One of those was complete. 2 of them were dropped, and the other, everybody was covered. And you don't see him do this often, but he decided to tuck it and run on a design pass play, and he got a first down out of it. So I thought Gavin started out the game really well. Um, he did have 3 or 4 drops early on, and then later in the first half, he had 3 or 4 really poorly thrown passes to wide open receivers.
yeah, those
So
are always going to come. Yeah,
they had
we're
that
used to
Jashawn
those.
Benjamin wheel route where he was wide open. He had
Oh,
nothing but grass in front of him. One of the fastest guys in the Big Ten. You get him in open space like that, he might still be running at this point. He misses a wide open Johnny Langan over the middle. He sailed it over his head. He missed a wide open Jaquay Jackson. You're in the red zone. Just like a lot of, if it's not one thing, it's another on the offense, it seems. The only constant is Kyle MF and Manungai.
oh yeah.
That guy is such a stud. I think we all had we were all dilating in the behind when Manungai got hurt and he was down.
Oh,
Thankfully, on the replay, it wasn't a twist of the ankle. It wasn't a twist of the knee. It looked like, honestly, he got hit on the shin really hard. So his shin's probably going to be bruised up, but he was able to return to the game, obviously. Just he's the most indispensable guy on the team. I know people will point to Gavin, and he has ran the offense pretty well, but you lose Manungai, you lose your
oh,
offense.
oh, without question. Yeah, I mean Gavin. Yes, he had a big running game and he's got a lot of rushing touchdowns, but come on. I mean, besides that, they can't. He can't run the ball unless Manangai is suckering the defenders over to him. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
If they got a key on Wims out, he's not going to do anything, and he hasn't been throwing the football with success. And just imagine, like you said, I mean, they're up 17-14 at the half, and they had all of this dominance on the ground, and yet when it really came down to it, I mean, look at the final stats. Wimsatt was 5 of 12 for 39 yards. You would think that with the success they have on the ground, that would open up the passing game, but it just doesn't happen that way. At least,
and I do think those stats are a little deceiving because, like I said, I do think he had between 3 and 4 drops. Like
Langen had a couple of them, didn't he?
Langen had 2. I forget who the others were, but he should have had more completions than he did. I just want to remind everybody in the chat, thanks for joining us. We have a pretty big crowd today. If you want to donate or make a super chat, feel free. We appreciate all of those. We have our first one from Delmarva Fishing. Thanks again. He's been a donor almost every show we've had. He said the offensive performance was like a 2.0, a $2 lady of the night. It wasn't pretty, but he got the job done. Yeah, exactly. As long as it's in the dark, you don't necessarily need to look at anything. You just kind of need to sit back and enjoy. That's kind of what happened. The defense, I thought, once we kind of got the ground game really established, IU is just totally defeated. The defense stepped up, ramped up its pressure. I thought we had a few instances of over pursuit on the defensive line. We had back-to-back games now where the defense just doesn't really look ready to play on the first offensive series for the other team. 3 in a row. They just marched down the field, scored a touchdown. But after that, I mean, they really bottled them up. The other time they scored in the game is when we weren't able to convert on the 4th and 1, and they got the ball at midfield and they marched down and scored. But otherwise, this defense played phenomenal. I think at different points in the game, unfortunately, a lot of guys got dinged up. I hope they're going to be good the rest of the season. But between Tyreen Powell making plays, Flip Dixon making plays, Robert Longerby making plays, Eric Rogers came in, was making plays. Max Belton, you got to give him a big shout out too, because I know we've been critical of him, but he made 3 or 4 really nice plays in coverage today. They were just totally outmatched, Indiana. Rutgers, I really felt more confident about them. I thought they were mispriced all week, and sure enough, they showed that they not only belonged, but they were the far better team. This game wasn't close. The frustrating part is we were the ones who were allowing Indiana to stick around in this game.
Absolutely.
Because we weren't able to get things done on offense. But in the second half, we really kind of turned things on.
And we're going to talk about that 4th down failed conversion, because that, to me, could have been the biggest play or moment of the game, and thankfully it wasn't. Let's start, first of all, with how it started, and that was, of course, once again, another first drive, and it looked like we were going to get away with it. Quarterback scrambling at that moment. You're, as a fan, you're going, all right, well, we got this. He's just going to he's just chucking the ball, and then you look and go, why is that guy wide open? And Dixon, I'm not sure what he did. I'm not sure if he thought someone else was supposed to be back there or he just completely lost sight of him. But that was blown coverage or just bad coverage. And when that happened, it was just, that's what you just don't want to see happening, because it's a bad team. You know you're better than that. You don't want to give that team any sort of confidence or feeling that this could be a game that they could possibly win. Unfortunately, that's what happened. But what really was nice to see was the response drive, where they just hammered the running game with a 15-play drive. 67 of the yards were on the ground.
Yep.
That was awesome. That was a nice drive.
That was a great drive. I think it might be the longest drive for Rutgers of the season in terms of the number of plays. 15 plays, 8 minutes and 9 seconds on that drive for Rutgers. Just, you couldn't ask for more.
Who did they remember? They had a couple of drives like that against some. I forget which team it was early in the season.
I think Northwestern. They had. I put out a stat. I want to say it was they had like 2 drives of 15 plus yards all of last season, and then literally the first 2 drives of 2023, both against Northwestern, went for 15 plus plays.
There you go.
So, we got another donation too from P. Matt of Poisette. He said, Gavin Wimsatt's best pass and most important might have been the 4th and 4. Yes. I agree. That 4th and 4 to Christian Dremel, who, I mean, they got to just stick with a number for that guy, because last week it was 47 on the punt return. This week it was 83 on. I don't know at what point that went on, but he was number 83 without a nameplate for a bit. Yeah, that was a laser when we really needed to have it because he had missed a bunch of passes prior to that in a row. So it was nice to finally see him connect. Great pass on a must-have it down.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry,
gonna
we can
right
keep going
now.
through here.
I'm gonna. By the way, let me know if if we get a delay now, because I'm gonna go
Okay.
ahead and show you and everybody else the plays. I got some of the big plays here on Twitter. So we'll start first of all with the Rutgers touchdown run that tied the game up. So let me cue that. Yep. So there it is, and I can probably move this over somewhere else like that. Yeah, let me put it up there. No, let me put it down there. Okay. Anyway, you can see it. There it is. There's a
Yep.
touchdown run. That was the easy one. That capped it. And by the way, of course, they called the first touchdown back. And
Yep.
this was a little bit of a theme. There were several times when it looked like Rutgers had either accomplished a first down or accomplished something, and he took it away from us. And we can go into that because we've got some of that to talk about. But yeah, that was really nice to see. But then right after that, I might as well just segue into to the big play here, which is the pump block touchdown right there.
But yeah, that was the play of the game. I was wondering at what point this would happen because Rutgers has gotten close this year on a few different occasions on blocking a punt. It's a staple of Greg Schiano's
Yes.
special teams. He really takes it seriously. Not that other coaches don't, but he just sees it as basically a third of your game planning should go towards special teams because it's a third of the actual gameplay. So getting that punt block was kind of a long time coming. Usually you see at least a handful of those. And we could all think of different instances as fans where that became the point in which it changed, it changed the game. And today it was early on. And I remember reading something on Twitter after that play happened where you remember last year against Nebraska, Rutgers was not able to scoop and score. And then they ended up, falling on the ball at like the 10. They don't score on that possession. And that's what ends up being the difference in the game. So apparently they practiced that all off season in terms of just trying to get that nailed down. And sure enough, it was the perfect scoop and score here. I mean, it happened to just land right in Eric Rogers' lap. But, I mean, you got to take the opportunities when they come to you. And that was one of them. And the defense did it. So kudos to them.
That was awesome. And like you said, we have been waiting for that because it should be our staple with the Schiano coach team. And we need that right now, especially in the development of the program. And the offense, it's not a blistering offense. It's supposed to be defense and special teams that is going to carry us until we can get the offense going on a consistent basis. And so, yes, that was just such a relief for that to take place. And that was awesome. Then Rutgers gets the ball back. And we're going to go over the play now about, well, first of all, they had the 3rd and long, and they called a running play, which it was almost, I don't know, it was weird. It was almost like, well, they're not going to move the ball much, so we're not going to make a mistake. Let's just run the ball and punt it. I didn't know what that was about, but they had the personal foul, and that kept our drive alive. And I was like, all right, well, whatever. We got a break. So now comes the 4th and 2 at Indiana's 42. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I wanted them to punt. And I wanted them to punt because of exactly what happened. I did not want to give a team with no offense and a bad team at that anything. I don't want to give them any momentum whatsoever. Just pin them. Pin them at the 5 if you can. Just get the ball back at midfield and you'll be right back where you were. Of course, if they get it, great. I'm happy. But it just didn't work out, and then all of a sudden the game switched just like that, and it was like, oh, I can't believe they did this. They just put themselves back in a position where now it's a football game again.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's one thing if your offense is kind of like really humming, but at that point everything was just, it seemed like once they got 7 points ahead, they were like, okay, let's just run the entire game now. We're gonna just get out of this game. It's
yes,
like, bro, you have 45 minutes left in this game. What are you doing? It was so unimaginative. I was talking about this on Twitter, and it kind of ended up foreshadowing what would happen later in the game. There's so many times in that RPO where Gavin has the edge defender bites on the running back, and he still hands it off.
I know.
He's got nothing but green in front of him.
I know.
And that happened over and over in the first half. And thankfully, it ended up working out in the second half. But, I mean, if you're just going to run that same play, like defenses are going to key in on it. And that's basically what those, those two drives were just the same exact play over and over and over. And because Kyle Manangi has such good vision and because the offensive line is stepped up, it ends up working out. But they're not really plays that are designed to succeed with how we're executing them. It just happens that, we have a really, really good running back with great vision who's able to make a couple guys miss and pick up 4 yards when you should probably get tackled at the line. But
yeah, we talked about it even the first few shows, I think, before you came on, that I understood the whole offense. It's a Minnesota offense, and we're going to run the ball in between the tackles. Just, we're going to try to do that as consistently and as best we can. We're not going to move it to the outside because the more you move it to the outside, the more chances for negative plays. So I get that. That's the offense. But at a point, it's just, can you just try to run the ball to the outside just once or twice? Because they all know what's coming. And anyway, so, but yeah, that just, I didn't understand it, to give them momentum, and it could have cost them. It could have been something where, if God forbid they would have lost the game, that would have been the biggest play, and it would have been the cause of the loss. But I don't know what any of the viewers think, because you all had your opinions before they went for it. I don't know what everybody out there thought. Did you want to see Rutgers go for it? Did you think they did the right thing, or did you think they should have punted?
I thought it was the right call. It's just you gotta mix up your play calls a little more than they have. Like, that is when you're faking a handoff and then you're running your quarterback. So you're taking time to fake the handoff. And then the quarterback, because we take every snap in shotgun, he's 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. So, one of the reasons why the tush push works so well for the Eagles is because you're snapping the ball, and you're just talking about how much distance do you need to cover. And at most, it's like 2 yards, literally just 2 yards, because you're taking the ball right from where it's being snapped and you're falling forward. When you're taking that snap in shotgun, you're already taking the ball 3 or 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And then when you do a fake, you're allowing the defense to kind of converge in. So you're giving yourself so little time to cover 6-7 yards. It's just physically, like, if you're just talking about the actual like layout of that play, how far you need to get to make it succeed, it's more daunting than just the yardage would indicate. So that's why I don't like the play call. Why not just run some kind of, like, if you're gonna do something tricky, do play action. They're not expecting a pass out of that play. Just do something where, like, a tight end leaks out, or line up in like a 2-back set in some kind of like pony package. Like, there's so much more creative stuff you can do than just the standard RPO, long kind of mesh point crap. And then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But
it looked like somebody might have missed a block. I'm not sure if that's what I saw. It looked like the guy in motion might have missed, because that was what happened. And this is something else. Gavin Wimsatt, look, obviously he's had a huge game. He's had a nice season with touchdowns. He had the big 80-yard touchdown run and all that. But I don't know if you noticed, but I mean, I've noticed a lot even more in this game. Man, he just goes down real fast. Somebody gets a hold of him, and bam, he is down. And
it seems like he always falls in like the least advantageous way you can. Like, there's a lot of running backs that are really good because they just know the exact way they need to fall to gain the most yards. He falls sideways, and he'll like take a hit sideways. It's almost like he gets shot in the shoulder and he falls back or something. There was a lot of plays today where it looked like we probably could have gotten the first down, and we ended up a half yard short because of the way he kind of fell forward.
Yes.
We do have another super chat in here. DW Kim says, "Go RU. Keep up the great coverage, fellas. Really appreciate that." Reading through your comments as we go, but it's just easier to see the super chats here, guys. So if you want to get your questions read, that's definitely the easiest way and the most appreciated way. It's the first half had me a little bit scared, to be honest. I didn't really start to feel confident after that turnover on downs until the muff punt. And even then it was like, how do we not come out with 6 in this? Because,
I know.
We're down at the 3-yard line with 2 timeouts. And the time at that point doesn't matter, but we had like a 30 seconds, I believe. And I thought the first play down in the red zone, I thought it was pretty clear Andre Carter jumped off sides for Indiana.
Yes.
But they said it wasn't offsides.
That was a close one.
You lose 4 yards right there and a timeout. So now it's 2nd and goal from like the 7. probably 20 seconds left. You got a timeout left. And then you really kind of, if you were at the 3-yard line, say we get stopped for no gain, say it's an incomplete pass, you can run basically any play out of that. But because we're at the 7-yard line, if you run the ball, you get to like maybe the 4, you score, that'd be great. But then you have to use your other timeout. You're really limited as to what your play calls can be. And I think they had an incompletion where he threw it way over out of the back of the end zone. And then he completes the pass to Christian Dremel at like the 4-yard line. Yeah. And he goes down almost immediately. That's just like, I don't know. I get that you have to get that ball out because I think he had 8 seconds left with a timeout. So you got to get it out, whether it be you throw it to a guy or you just throw the thing 3 yards deep into the back of the end zone. But I don't know. I thought that red zone trip. I thought that red zone trip was a little lame, but we got points. We went into half up 17-14. We got the ball coming out of the second half, and that's where I really thought like this game kind of turned, because you come out of the second half, 12-play, 75-yard drive, eat up almost 7 minutes of clock, and at that point, that's when you could start to see that they were ready to basically quit.
Here's nice this is the touchdown. I'm going to pop that up.
Okay.
So, that's the touchdown and go up 10. And look at that. That was another 6-minute plus drive.
Yep.
Start the second half. And by the way, there was, remember they had the personal foul. I want to talk about that. I think that was still in the second quarter when they called that awful pass interference on Rutgers. I don't forget who the player was. Langen, maybe? And then Indiana guy in the same play had the personal foul.
Yep.
And then so it was offsetting, but instead it should have been an extra 15 yards for Rutgers, because you're kidding me. You called that pass interference on, he basically put his hand out. And the guy wasn't even anywhere near the play. And it's just typical crap from the officials. I guess it was fortunate that Indiana's player, Lewis Moore, I believe his name was, that left the game.
So they lost a lot of key players due to injury and due to the targeting rule. Like Lewis Moore, we were talking to the Indiana guy before the game, and their 2 safeties were very, very good. I think they both had multiple interceptions on the year. They were their second and third leading tacklers outside of Aaron Casey. So Lewis Moore, he got ejected. One of their linebacker DB hybrids, hurt his leg early in the game and he was out. So they really got dinged up in this game defensively, and that's part of the reason why Rutgers was just able to kind of cut through them like a hot knife through melted butter, or whatever the phrase is.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But I'm reading through the chat here to see if anybody's got any.
And by the way,
questions.
When you mentioned the throw before, that obviously came on this drive.
Yep.
First drive of the second half. And I said the same thing when it was 4th and 4 and he threw the 8-yard pass to Dremel. I said that was the best pass of the game, because it looked like it was just, whether you want to say the best play call, combination pass, combination catch. It was like a very nice timing situation to it all come together on that drive, because we knew getting up 2 scores in the second half was going to be just huge and extremely hard for Indiana to win the game at that point. So to keep that drive alive was awesome. And then boom, Manangi for 10, Wimsat for 8, Manangi for 6, and then Wimsat for the touchdown. They're up by 10. So that was nice.
The NCAA has to figure out this targeting rule too. Like I thought it was a little soft, the one that they called on Indiana. I thought that was super soft, the one that they called on Rutgers. Second week in a row where Rutgers gets a critical 4th down stop, and the offense is on the field. The defensive players and coaches are all jumping up and down. The announcers are talking about what a great play it was, and then hold up.
Yeah,
we have a buzz-in from the upstairs, overlords. They want to take a look at this. And honestly, you could go Zapruder film frame by frame of almost any play in a college football game and say that there was targeting in it, because it is a violent game, and the targeting rule was only in place to take the most violent brutal plays out of football. Because, you know, you can call a 15-yard penalty and it's one thing, but, you know, the targeting rule was designed to really kind of make it so it would be a big deal if you committed something like that. And if you have to look at something frame by frame to look, oh, yep, in that frame, he ducked his head. Yeah. That's intent. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, watch the play at full speed and tell me if you think that was a violent, intentional, helmet-to-helmet type hit that deserves an ejection. Because there are plays like that occur in games. I'm not saying at all that player safety shouldn't be a priority, because it should. But if you have to look at that with so much granularity that it kind of isn't even clear after you looked at it 7 times from 7 angles at 7 different speeds, I don't know. I think that's total crap. And for them to call it the same exact situation they did last week, I thought was just abhorrent. It was, I don't know. I cannot stand when that happens, because it's like, it's not affecting the play. It's not affecting the game. The player didn't have intent.
Yeah.
It's a football play. I'm just so sick of it.
Yeah.
And so, especially when they don't call it on the field either. Unbelievable.
Yeah, because it almost looked like it was, okay, somebody in the box sees the replay, and he's now going to, because he sees the replay, not because, like you said, not because of anything that happens during the game. And all of a sudden, not only are they going to change everything, but it's going to happen in such a big way where all of a sudden you're giving them life. Because remember on this, what happened was, and this was after the touchdown by Wimsat. So what happened was there was no call on Loyal, which was nice to see. You know, he had that really big PD. The quarterback throws the ball down the sidelines. So no call. It's like, okay, well, wow, and they didn't call that. And then when you saw the quarterback throw the football, you did notice some contact, like I did. It was, wow, he really hit him. When I first saw it. Everybody's running off the field, and I'm writing on my notes, wow, no call on Loyal or on Collins. I had already wrote it down. I figured that was going to be something that we were going to talk about. And then, like you said, we come back from commercial break, and here we go. And then all of a sudden, oh, of course not. Well, I wrote down too soon that they were not going to call that, and of course they did. So yeah, that was annoying. Here is the touchdown run. So here is one of the plays of the year. Oh,
absolutely, and we referenced it a little bit earlier. How even at halftime, I had somebody, Coach Ed, if you're here, good call on this. He said, basically tagged every Rutgers media person he could think of, saying, why don't we ever take the quarterback read on the RPO, because it's open all year. The edge defenders have been biting on it all year. Why are we not taking advantage of that? And if you notice on that play, Gavin calls, it's almost like he called an audible in terms of, I'm not going to hand it off, because for whatever he saw. And then he took that ball, 80 yards to the house.
And that was a good fake. I was completely faked.
And the few times that Gavin has called an audible at the line, it's resulted in some big plays. So I think they should give him a little bit more autonomy to do that, because if you think to when he called audibles, I think immediately to the Temple game, that 62-yard reception by Jaquay Jackson, that was an audible at the line. And that was a 2nd and 20, I believe, too. This play where he clearly saw something and determined, I'm going to take it, and then all he needed to do was beat one guy, and he did. But this was the true knockout punch, though.
Yep.
There was still a little bit of feeling that maybe they can get back into this, even though the defense was playing great. The IU offense, they were finding ways to just really shoot themselves in the foot left and right in the second half.
Yeah,
they really couldn't get anything going.
Yeah.
I do want to shout out the Riot Squad, though. The Rutgers Riot Squad was at this game, and they had a pretty big contingent. They did get on the field. They did get on the on TV. I sent them a video of that, so I hope they get it. We also have another comment from Delmarva Fishin, another donation. Thank you very much. I don't know if you guys want to make a video or write a piece on this topic, but Rice versus Manangi, similar body style, running style, play style. I could see it. Ray was definitely bulkier, and he had better receiving chops, but I could see it. Manangi's probably a little bit more slight than Ray.
Yeah.
Ray was just like a total freak of nature. I want to say he was probably playing in college at like 250, like 5'8.5", 215, and he he had everything.
Oh, yeah.
Even though he didn't really catch a ton of passes in college, the few opportunities he did have to do it, he was excellent. And he was just a special player. Matt Millen was on the broadcast once again, and he just kind of made a point to just kind of say insane things like he normally does. He said that Kyle Manungai's vision reminds him of Barry Sanders, who he saw a lot of when he was with the Lions. And that just made me facepalm so hard because I love Kyle Manungai. I've said it time and again. He's my favorite player on this team. But Barry Sanders is a Hall of Fame, true like one of one type player. You can't compare Kyle Manungai to Barry Sanders. It's just not fair to him. But
it's nice to hear. Nonetheless,
it is.
Yeah,
it's cool. A compliment, so you got to take it that way. But it's just Absolutely. A little bit nutty.
No question. And the next step, though, is to make that type of impression in a big game. And I'm talking about Ohio State, Penn State. Yep. That's the next step. Is let's see that type of performance, win or lose, but let's see that type of performance where most of the nation or a lot of the nation is watching Rutgers against because they happen to be playing one of the best teams in the nation. That's if that happens, that'd be sweet. So one of the things they also did a lot of in this game, and I had to find out and check, I think it's a team high for this season, was the amount of PDs they had in the game from the defensive backs and linebackers. Yep. They had 9.
That's a great point. Wow.
Longabeam had 3. He led. But, man, they just – that's great coverage. And to not get – I don't even know if they had a pass interference. Did they?
They did not, no.
Yeah.
So they had a couple that were close, though. I will give them that.
They could have thrown the flag.
They did have – yeah, yep.
But that was
nice. I think they had a huge number against Temple as well, if memory serves me correct.
Okay.
But that was a very impressive performance by the defensive backfield for sure. And for those of you who have been following the Rutgers basketball scrimmage, I just want to put it out there. They just lost in double overtime to St. John's. They were down 18 points at halftime, made a massive comeback, but they fell short in double overtime. But hell of a performance. Just kind of wanted to shout them out.
I was just trying to take a look. They took it off. Well, they took off the team stats. Maybe that'll do it. I was taking a look to see if I get the PDs here. Oh, they took it off. So who was in the scrimmage? Everybody played then? That's one of those like really important scrimmages before the season?
Yeah, this one was usually they do it and it's totally closed to the public. It's purely just kind of like get your rotations figured out, to experiment a bit. This one was played at St. John's. It was open to the public. They sold tickets. All the proceeds went to the V Foundation.
Okay.
So they raised thousands of dollars for a great cause. And it was a great first test. And it has to give them a lot of confidence, a lot of things to work on as well. But it sounds like the game went fairly well. If you were around, I know we're doing our live show, but at 7:00, Danny Breslauer is hosting a Twitter space to talk everything about the game and give his thoughts on how it went. So I've tweeted out a link to that, and if you want it, we can drop it in the chat too. But big Rutgers day, big Rutgers weekend. I talked about it on the pod on Thursday. Rutgers field hockey is playing tomorrow. They're undefeated. They're playing the number 1 team in the nation at 11 a.m. at home. That's Northwestern. If they win, they will win a share of the Big Ten title. I do want to talk more about this game. I just want to kind of put all that stuff out there because it's a fantastic weekend to be a Rutgers fan. Overall.
Very nice. Season's only a few weeks away. That's another opponent, by the way, I would like to see Rutgers play on an annual basis or as much as possible as St. John's.
Especially while Patino's there and they'll actually be a good opponent. I agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's nice that they're getting Princeton back. But I think like the definites, like every year, should be St. John's, Seton Hall, and Princeton.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
John Boucher asks, "Are you guys allowed to drink when you're doing this?" Yeah, I am. I'll donate and invite you guys to my personal RV tailgate next game if you answer. So there's your answer. We are.
Yeah. Well, it's not gonna happen, but What if any? Because how many home games do they have left now? It's Ohio State
They
and
have two left. They have Ohio State on the 4th, and they have Maryland at home. I believe that's the weekend of Thanksgiving or the weekend before Thanksgiving.
yeah, the 25th. So it should be that
Yep.
weekend. Yeah. Okay. So that's yeah, that makes sense. 18. Yeah, it's actually 2 days after Thanksgiving.
Yep.
The Maryland game. Okay. So yeah, that's not going to matter. But the Ohio State game, if by any chance Al Michaels happens to cover the game and there's a miracle finish, then you guys will have to do the post game on the premises. Don't even come back to the studio and find a way to
Yeah.
do it with the fans there and just take it all in. And it may not happen this year, of course, but one of these years they're going to have one of those wins at home, and when it happens, you guys are going to need to be there with the fans.
Yeah, so I will be at the game, so I won't be able to do this after show because I live about an hour and a half away. But that game is getting set up to be. If I had to guess, the Big Ten tailgate show will be at that game, because if you look at the games that weekend, the weekend of the 4th, it's not a super heavy schedule.
No,
And I say that
Michigan,
now,
Purdue, nobody cares.
Michigan, Purdue.
Penn State, Maryland.
We got Penn State, Maryland. We got Iowa, Northwestern. It's basically like what teams in the Big Ten East are going to be around, because nobody cares about the Big Ten West because they're all just terrible for the most part. Yeah, so it's Minnesota, Illinois, no. Michigan State, Nebraska, no. Indiana, Wisconsin, no. Northwestern, Iowa, no. Maryland, Penn State, maybe. That would be the only other option. The best combined records is by far Rutgers, Ohio State. Or I guess not by far, but it is going to be Rutgers, Ohio State. So wouldn't surprise me at all if the tailgate show's there. I really hope that it's not a 12 o'clock game. I hope it's a 3:30 game, just because it's going to be a better atmosphere. You get a bit of the night game in that late in the year.
I agree. I'd rather have the 3:30. I don't even. And I know the fans. Probably a lot of fans probably love the night game deal, but I think that could actually work against you against like the top teams, because that's also prime time for them. They're not going to sleepwalk a prime time game. They're going to take it more seriously, and I want those teams to be a little bit more like taken, in a situation where, it's just another game. It's Rutgers. Yeah, it's not dark yet.
Yep.
Lights haven't come on yet. So yeah, that's just the way I feel about that. But either way, it would be nice. Appreciate it, Josh. Does Josh have something to say?
No, he was the one who asked if we could drink on here.
Okay. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, appreciate that, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it is. It's. I'll be honest. I mean, there are. If I was not preparing to do this each week, I wouldn't watch every play of the game. I mean, because especially with the way this offense gets me sometimes, I get so frustrated as a fan because I get so into it. Like, it means so much to me that if I'm watching something that is driving me nuts in a negative way, I'll just be like if they do something and I'm just so frustrated and I'm like, you know what? I've already recorded this. I can fast forward another half hour to see if it's worth me watching. I would do that. But now I just don't do it anymore. Now it's like, you know what? Got to be for real. Got to be professional. Got to watch every play as much as I can. Got to prep for the show. So we do appreciate anybody out there that appreciates the time and effort we put into this, because it's a busy day too. There's a lot going on right now. Even though 3:30 games aren't that big right now, right? I think there's the Tennessee Alabama game, and that's about it. So
yeah, it seems like for whatever reason those. It's either 7 o'clock or 12 o'clock are the most desirable time slots for advertisers, because a lot of those big noon games on Fox are like the biggest games of the day. And you wouldn't think that they would have them start at noon. I guess the expectation is once you get people sitting down on the couch watching your channel, they're not going to leave it the rest of the day. So you can kind of just like have a few games play on after that. That's my best guess.
Well, I mean, it makes, it is kind of weird too, because it is a Saturday. It's early. You would think, well, isn't it the time that the family wants to kind of go out and do things and so forth and so on. But apparently not. Because Ohio State game against Michigan's every year at 12 o'clock. The Oklahoma Texas game is at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
They put all the big games, like you said, at 12 o'clock. Like there's always like if it's a big game at 3:30, it's usually like the SEC game of the week.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah. Continuing on, just to wrap it up, it was just nice to see towards the end of that game. I mean, I wrote down nice PD by Rutgers towards the end zone. Nice, but right after that, the nice stick by Teray on that third down. That dude had to be almost carried off the field after that.
Oh my God, Jalen Lucas, the guy's 160 pounds soaking wet, and Mohamed Teray basically gave him, for the Harry Potter fans out there, the Death Eater kiss. Just totally laid him out, and they almost called I think they've called a penalty on the play for either unnecessary roughness or defenseless receiver, and he picked it up, and on the replay, it's a textbook hit.
Oh yeah,
shoulder right into his chest. You can't draw it up better. Breaks up the play. Textbook hit on a receiver, and it wasn't defenseless. He's still trying to get the ball in. So, really glad that it wasn't a helmet to helmet or a penalty there, because it was just like a very, very good hit.
Yeah, I think Toure knew it too. I think he knew, because if it was a bigger guy, I think he even hits him a little bit harder, but he didn't even have to hit him that hard. So, yeah, that was it just looked worse than it was, and that's why the official probably threw the flag. And then after that, there was a nice tackle. I think it was Jennings who made the nice tackle on the fourth down pass.
Yeah,
it was just really
it was like a 4th and 6, and they threw it basically at the line of scrimmage, and Jennings saw it immediately, made a square tackle, and it was just like a total
casually walked off the field.
Yeah, casually walked off the field. Somebody asked in the chat, do we agree that Deshaun Benjamin should be more involved in the pass game? I think Deshaun Benjamin should be more involved, period. I think he's our second best running back right now. I loved Sam Brown last year. He's clearly not at 100%. He doesn't have that same burst. He doesn't have that same wiggle. He doesn't have that same tackle breaking ability. And it's in large part because he's still not 100%. He had a pretty bad foot injury that he had complications coming back from. He wasn't able to really get his conditioning right. He wasn't able to take any hits, and it shows. He doesn't look like he's all the way back. I think he will be all the way back by next year. But Deshaun Benjamin, I mean, he is probably, if not the fastest guy on the team, one of the fastest 3 guys on the team. It's kind of inexcusable they're not utilizing him more, finding ways. They should be. I think Gavin's really comfortable throwing stuff towards the outside, throwing things short. That's like, if you noticed early in the season, some of his best throws were on wheel routes. Today it wasn't the case. But why not run some kind of like 2 backfield set where you have the option to either run it to Kyle Manangi or throw it off into space to Deshaun Benjamin? Like, that's going to be really hard to stop. I don't know. I think they just need to be more creative. And yes, I agree that Deshaun Benjamin should be utilized more, because Greg himself has even in press conferences said, he's not getting redshirted. We got to find a way to get him more involved. That's on me. Because at some point, I think he stopped playing. Like, he didn't get into a game for like 2 or 3 games straight. And there was some speculation, maybe he's going to get a red shirt this year, because if you play X amount of games or fewer, you can qualify for a red shirt now. But no, he's going to be playing the rest of the season. His red shirt has been burned at this point. He should be playing more, in my opinion.
What is the eligibility with those guys? So they have the 3 of them.
So Richie puts out a great article each week listing the eligibility of freshmen.
Okay.
And I believe 3 or 4 guys have exhausted their eligibility for this year.
By the way, Aaron Young, is he gone next year?
I actually think he has 1 more year if he wants to come back.
Okay. If he wants to come back, he might even. I mean, do you think he would transfer?
I don't think so. You never really know, though, with these guys. He's a guy I think we should be using too more. Matt Millen almost blew his top last week when he was wide open near the end zone, and when Gavin threw it to Isaiah Washington in the back. And Aaron Young was literally, he could have moonwalked in the end zone. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it is. It's their most talented position as far as depth, and I understand it's tough, but you would think that at this point, maybe through the bye, maybe they'll be able to figure something out because they have to. And also with Wimsat, how inconsistent he is, throwing the ball further down the field to his receivers. That's what would work best if he could figure out a way to just get the ball to the running backs instead. So we'll see. We appreciate those guys all coming back because any one of those running backs could be a starter in college football. So that's how deep and awesome it is to have the backfield, and we definitely need it. So nice to see. You know, one of the things though I'd like to see we have to do a better job of though defensively is getting more pressure with 4 men. We're not getting enough.
I think not only getting pressure, but also not over pursuing. Because how many times did it seem like the pocket was collapsing on this guy, and then he just scampers out to the right, rolls up to the left,
makes one cut,
steps up into the pocket, and he's got 7-8 yards, nothing but green in front of him. We just are not great at. We're great at the first 80% of the rush. We're not great at the last 20%, which is finishing, which is the most important part. So we'll get better at that, but it's slow progress, that's for sure. It's definitely frustrating when it looks like we got a guy. Like early in the game, that's what happened. It was 4th and 7 from the 35. It looks like the pocket's collapsing around their quarterback. He rolls out to his left, and he just launches this, total like moonshot to Omar Cooper, who had nobody around him, and they hit a wide. They just get an easy touchdown when it looks like we should have sacked him, but it is what it is.
Do you think that part of that though is the fact that Toure is not rushing as much? He's more playing the typical linebacker role.
I mean, I think that's probably part of it, but I think we have a very talented defensive line, at least a very talented set of edge rushers. Like I think between Aaron Lewis, Wesley Bailey, Jordan Thompson, Renee Conga, I know is banged up right now, but we have a group of defensive linemen 4, 5, 6 deep that there's kind of not really a good excuse as to why we're not finishing off rushes, in my opinion. It's just we haven't gotten to the guy. A few times it's because of over pursuit. A few times it's because, we're facing a lot of good mobile quarterbacks. Sometimes it's just like you get your arms on them and you whiff. So
Bailey
it's kind of a lot of different things.
Have the lead at 3 sacks each.
Mm-hmm.
Toure just 1.5. Fletcher 1. Yeah, that's got nothing for. We've talked about the surprise that we haven't seen more from Hamilton, and I don't know. I guess it's just the way it is. Maybe he needs another year. I don't know. We all, I guess, maybe had higher aspirations, so maybe it'll click for him next year. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it takes a couple of years.
Yeah,
especially statistically. Like I even remember what's his name, Quinnen Williams. I mean, if you look at him, like 1 year he was just a player, and the next year, his last year at Alabama, he went from just being like a guy to being a monster. And it happens sometimes. You need every year of eligibility. So I hope so. It'd be nice to have that guy, in that
it would be
line.
Yeah, it would be just nice to have somebody you knew. It's a money down. We're gonna get to the quarterback, but we don't. And not many teams do, in fairness. But I do think we have a very talented defense in general at all 3 levels of the defense, which I think this is the first time you can legitimately say we've got an above average defensive line, linebacking crew, and secondary. It's a formidable unit in general. Somebody asked a lot of hype on Aaron Lewis to start the season, but it seems like he's overrated based on his production. Is it just me? So if you're just looking at specific stats, you could say he's overrated. If you're only looking at, tackles for loss, or if you're only looking at sacks. But I think he led the nation in pressures last year. He was either first or second in pressures, which are a very important and more telling stat in terms of how good of a pass rusher you are than sacks, because there's sometimes where you get pressure on the quarterback and that forces him up in the pocket,
Sure.
and you get a sack from your defensive interior, or he forces them to the opposite side, and then your other defensive end cleans it up. The guy putting pressure on is usually the biggest reason as to why a play gets blown up, not necessarily the guy who gets the sack. So I do think those stats can be a little misleading, and he is good against the run. You're right, Cinema Man. I think Aaron Lewis is just making a few crucial just mistakes in terms of just over pursuit or just like silly things. But I think he is a great player still, and he's going to play in the NFL without a doubt.
Yes, he has another year. Him and Bailey both have another year, correct? They're both juniors.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
There's going to be a lot of guys on this defense that have decisions to make after this season.
I'm looking at their
Lewis,
top 17 tacklers are all juniors or seniors.
Yeah. I think the three guys that are most likely to potentially leave are Tyrone Powell, Flip Dixon, Aaron Lewis. I think all three of them are mid-round draft picks or better. And when I say mid-round, third, fourth or better, fourth, fifth or better. This is the most talented team in terms of defense or in terms of NFL prospects, probably since Shiano's first go around, or maybe the first or second flood year where we had like Logan Ryan, Deron Harmon, Steve Baharnis, Steve Longa. Like we had a lot of dudes on those teams too. This is right up there though with those teams. Not quite as good as like the 06, 07, 08 kind of teams on defense, but right up there with the 2012 kind of team, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're heading in the right direction. There's no question about it. That's why we felt that way when the season began, and it's just a matter of, the quarterback position is the spotlight, and we harp on it all the time. And yeah, if they had more consistent quarterback play, they could just be that much better. And that's what I do feel they're getting towards. The coaching staff is top notch. The overall talent around the team is really getting there. Yeah, I mean, are they missing a superstar first-round draft pick? Yes. I mean, will that come?
Yep.
I believe so. But until that comes, I think we're in that next stage. I think we're in that kind of, now we're going bowling stage. This is the beginning.
Yep.
And then that next stage is the stage where we can seriously be a top 20 team. Can we, get this whole conference where we can get the heck away from having to play Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State every year? It looks like that's going to happen sometime soon. So all of that, I think, is a really good sign for the future, and I'm looking forward to the future. And I think it's bright, and it's it is what it is. What happened last time, we pinnacled, and then he left, but he's not going anywhere now. Whenever Greg Schiano leaves, he's retiring. That's the end of Greg Schiano coaching, and I don't think, as long as things go well here, I don't think he's retiring anytime soon. So, I think it's going to be a fun ride. And I'm glad
I agree.
to be part of it.
I agree. For those of you who haven't seen it, TJ Hitchings has a call to arms on Twitter. He wants to get the thank you Jack Mac hashtag trending. For those of you who don't know, Jack Mac is a total hack. He's a Barstool personality. Before the season, he said Rutgers is the worst program in the Power Five, how they didn't even deserve to have be a part of the Big Ten, blah, blah, blah. He's a UConn fan too, as hilarious as that sounds. So I just posted the hashtag in the chat. It's just hashtag thank you Jack Mac, JACKMAC. Put a tweet out there using that hashtag. TJ wants to get it trending. I agree. I really don't like that guy. I'm glad that we showed him. We showed him up today.
Good.
But
it's a good day.
It's a great day.
Great day to be a Rutgers fan, and period. Just like you said, not just football, but for the university, for the athletics program. And we're going to it hasn't sunk in, but like you said, it is going to be awfully nice now to it's like watching the rest of the season is going to be bonus football. It's all it's going to be. It's not to say that we're not going to be critical. We will. We're not going to sit there and just say everything's, happy roses and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to have that pit or that weird feeling in my stomach anymore this year, because I know at the end of it, we're going bowling, and we've accomplished the one thing that was the most important thing that we needed to accomplish this season. So
absolutely. And this is huge for recruiting. It's huge for so many reasons. I do think that it lets the entire team feel like they're playing loose. They don't have the pressure of like we haven't had a winning season in X amount of years anymore. Um, the final 4 games, you obviously want to win all of them, but it's not like
Yeah.
it's going to hold you back from playing the postseason anymore.
No.
I think Ohio State, it's going to be the closest we're going to ever come to beating them in terms of on paper. We're better than we have been in a long time. They're worse than they have been in a long time, despite them getting the win today. Both offenses weren't very good.
No.
I think Penn State is incredibly overrated. A lot of people talk about Rutgers' easy schedule. I don't know if there's been an easier schedule so far this season than Penn State for a Power 5 team. Their quarterback's not very good. Maybe he will be one day, but he's not right now. I don't think the Ohio State quarterback is anything to write home about. Kyle McCord.
Not yet.
And offensively, they're really banged up. Their offensive line is suspect. They have an incredible receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr., who had a career day today. Maybe not career in terms of career highs, but one of his more standout performances today against Penn State. I think if there was going to be a chance to beat Ohio State, it's this year. You get them at home. You're coming into it off a bye. It's probably
You think
going
we
to
have
be
a better chance to beat Ohio State or Penn State?
Ohio State.
So
And
you
that's
take
only
the
because
home situation.
the home situation, we're coming off a bye. Ohio State might be overlooking Rutgers. Not saying they will or will not be, but I mean, they played Penn State today. They're playing at Wisconsin next week. It'll be 4 straight games for them in a row. The following weeks, they play Michigan State, Minnesota, and at Michigan. I don't know. I just think it sets up well for Rutgers. Not saying we will beat them, but if we are going to beat them, it's going to be a year like this year. I also think, I think outside of the Penn State, I think Penn State is the one game on the schedule I don't think we'll be able to have a chance in. Not saying we'll get blown up by 40, but if you're telling me, Rutgers wins 3 of its 4 remaining, and I don't think that will happen. But if you were to say that, the 3 games I would pick were Ohio State, Iowa, and Maryland. I think Penn State is the least likely of those 4. But Iowa, I feel good about too. Iowa's terrible on offense. Like if we can just have any sort of, offensive performance whatsoever against Iowa, and I know they have a great defense too, but their offense isn't going to do anything. They lost Cade McNamara earlier in the season to an ACL. They lost Eric All, their leading receiver, their tight end, their top tight end to an ACL last week. Like they're not a good team. It's just, is their defense going to shut us down worse than our defense shuts them down? That's kind of the question. And then Maryland, I thought the first few games, Maryland was going to be, a potential Big Ten East dark horse. And then they've kind of fallen apart a bit. So I think they're beatable, but they have a great offense. I think offense is harder to stop than defense. So I'm going out on a limb here. I think the Iowa game we have a better chance in than the Maryland game, but we will see.
We'll find out today too, because Minnesota is not necessarily. I don't even know if Minnesota. I think we're on par or maybe better than Minnesota. So if they can give Iowa a tough game today on the road, that's going to tell us a lot.
Yep.
Look, we kind of feel that this year could be the year that they win that one game that nobody's expecting them to win. Of course, we'd love it to be Penn State or Ohio State, but we'll take Iowa on the road. Definitely, we'll do that. But that's the thing. That's the only other thing. Like when the season's over, and we're talking about what we thought about the regular season for Rutgers. That's going to be the only thing that I think is going to be good or bad is did they beat that opponent that they weren't supposed to beat? And that now that the bowl's in the bag, now that's the next step.
Yeah, we got the bowl. We're looking for that signature moment, which a lot of people have pointed out. Like there isn't really a signature moment we can point to in Schiano's 2.0 era. I think the closest you have maybe the Michigan State game, his first game back.
Yep, that was the big
one. But even that, like that season was weird. Like I think everything that happened in the COVID year, you kind of have to look at with an asterisk. And then, how long did it take for Schiano to get his first home win in the Big Ten. I want to say we didn't have a Big Ten home win until last year, if memory serves me right.
How many have we had now? So we beat Michigan State. Anybody last year?
So we didn't
beat
have one in 20. We didn't have one in 21.
Just Indiana. That's it.
Mm-hmm. So last year we got our first Big Ten home win under Schiano. That was against Indiana. And then this year we've had several. So kudos to Schiano and staff and the team. So now we have 3 Big Ten home wins under Schiano.
But the quality of the opponent needs to step up.
Yeah, and this is, it took 4 years for us to make this step, but we have made that step. But I think we also have to put in context how bad of a situation Schiano stepped into with, Kyle Flood getting compounded by Chris Ash. Think of how much we wanted Flood out of here after 4 years of him. Then we get Chris Ash.
It got worse.
It got 10 times worse. So, baby steps, as Ignacio saying. Somebody asked where the haters are that were asking where they were saying Rutgers shouldn't be in the Big Ten before the season. They're now pretending to wave their pom poms on the sideline between Jack Mack, that hack Stuart Mandel, who wrote a hit piece that was citing 10-year-old information about how Rutgers joining the Big Ten was the worst decision in the realignment era, which is total crap because the Big Ten has made so much money off of Rutgers' inclusion in the Big Ten. It's not even funny because there was tens of millions of households that now had access to the Big Ten network, which is hundreds of millions of dollars in TV revenue they've added. Plus, not for nothing, a lot of their bigger, shinier name programs, as much as it pains me, they got an easy win against Rutgers every year. So it was patting them up into that upper echelon too, giving them an extra easy conference win. Not that that's something I take pride in, but that's true. And if you look at every single Rutgers program, every single one has elevated itself since joining the Big Ten, without question. Every single program. And you could say, well, football really hasn't. And football, you can make the argument that they haven't, but basketball, baseball, both soccer programs, field hockey, wrestling. Think of all the accolades they've had since they joined the Big Ten. 2 national champions in wrestling, a Big Ten title in men's soccer, a Big Ten title in women's soccer, a Big Ten title in field hockey, the number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament in field hockey. Our rowing program's regularly ranked. Our baseball team had its most ever regular season wins under the current coach 2 years ago. It is kind of an unprecedented level of success. Volleyball had its first ever win against a ranked opponent 2 weeks ago. It goes on and on. This is just, I don't know if there's a bigger success story of conference realignment than Rutgers. So I don't know how he just formulated that whole article around football, and that's it.
When
was it? He published this article in August.
This past August.
This past August, yes.
Wow. Okay. Yep. I hope he got some pushback after it was.
He got a lot of pushback from Rutgers fans. I think Richie got blocked by Stuart Mandel for some of the things that he said.
Go Richie.
Go Richie.
Attaboy.
Add some to his list of people that he stood up to for talking out of their ass. But
awesome. Yeah. So, well, that's the thing. Like you said, it's everybody looks at the football program, and that's just not. It doesn't an athletic program make. Just a football program. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's the number 1, but there's more to it. And then all you got to take a look at is the basketball program. And if you haven't figured out that from the basketball program, I mean, please.
Yeah. They didn't make the NCAA tournament for 30 years. And
we should have probably been in the last 4. And what was that? What was the one I get? Athlon, I think it is. I forget. Oh, Lindy's, which I like. I like the Lindy's guide. It's pretty simple. They didn't even put Rutgers in the tournament this year. I'm like, come on. You're putting teams like Clemson in, and whatever. I mean, haven't you figured it out yet? What's going on at Rutgers and the coach and the players he develops and so forth and so on. It's like every year you got to fight this. But again, I guess that's what it is until they prove themselves, or until this new class comes and we put a real big kick in the ass on everybody. I guess that's just the way it's going to be.
I honestly think Pikel thrives on that underdog, like nobody believes in us kind of tactic. So I don't mind that the national media is sleeping on Rutgers again, because I think Pikel really plays that well with his team. But the opposite's going to be true next year, when we do have Ace Bailey, who's the number 2 ranked recruit in the country, when we likely have Dylan Harper, who's the number 3 ranked recruit in the country, when we land most likely a really high-rated transfer kid, because I don't know of any transfers. I'm not saying there is one that's soundly committed, but there's going to be people who want to come in and play with this team.
Yes.
And Cliff has another year of eligibility. I don't think he comes back, but like if we get enough money donated in NIL where it financially makes sense for him to come back, can I see it happening? Yeah, but right now, probably not. But he has that eligibility year.
He might go, wait a second, why would I leave now? Look what's coming.
Why would you leave now? I have the opportunity to legitimately have a national championship caliber basketball team and be a part of it, be a centerpiece there.
Yep.
Because he is so disruptive on the defensive end in terms of rebounding, in terms of block shots, in terms of affected shots, that it'd be an incredible turn of events if he did come back. I don't want to set people's expectations that he will.
Sure.
I'm just saying the year of eligibility is there, and we can dream.
That's all it is. And why not? That's what this time is. It's about dreaming. And I think that these dreams are going to start coming into reality. So I can't wait for the basketball season to begin, because I'm expecting – that's what's so great now, is that I'm expecting the team to be in the tournament this year.
Yeah, and that's a weighty expectation. It's also a privilege to have those expectations.
Yeah.
When fans are excited enough to think my team is going to be really good this year, and if they're not, I'm going to be bummed out. Yeah. Not like maybe they'll be good this year. I know that they're blah blah blah, but that expectation is a privilege, and I think that Pikel knows that, and I think Pikel really kind of respects that we have to even push harder now that those expectations are there, that we can't really rest on what we've accomplished in the past, because we want to take this even further. He's got 3 shelves above his desk in his office, all covered in plexiglass. One is for his first NCAA tournament win, which he got. The other is for his first Final Four appearance, and his other is for his first national championship game.
Love it.
Or his first national championship. The other 2 obviously are empty, but those are the expectations he carries for this program. So very exciting times. I don't know if there's been a better time in Rutgers history to be a fan. So enjoy this right now, guys, because it is a golden era for sure.
Yeah, because I was even looking in when I was going over the preview of who are the top teams in the nation this year, and I'm just saying, I mean, there were let's just, when you see programs that have made a run, like even the one team that sticks out is Miami. I mean, wait a second. They made a run to the Final Four. They were a Final Four team. You know what? If that program could put the Final Four together with their history, well, we certainly could do that as well. And that's the kind of bar that I think we should set now. It's not like 20, 30 years ago when all of the top programs, it was always the big boys, and you had to get through them to get to a Final Four or whatever. It's always the big name program. That's just not the case anymore. It's wide open. And when you see teams like Miami get to it, why can't Rutgers? So that's how I feel. I'm sure that's what the base feels. And I know we're going to get it. We just have to make that first big run in the tournament. We have to, because that's the big thing. Because until you do that, you just don't know if you can. And it's not easy.
Yep.
So, we got to get a break. Get a nice seeding break, or get a nice break where you can have a nice path and make that first step a reality. Get the fan base, and that'll just boost recruiting even more. And all of a sudden, you're in your first Sweet 16, or you're in your first Elite 8, and then you could think big. So anyway,
unfortunately, that opportunity was there in I think 2021 when they beat Clemson in the first round. They played a 2 seed in Houston. They were up like 9 points. They missed a dunk. And then if you look at the route that Houston took to the Final Four that year, the next in the Sweet 16, I believe, they played a Syracuse team that Rutgers beat pretty handily earlier in the year. And then I think they played like a really high seed in the Elite Eight as well. I think that was 20. I think that's 21. Yeah, it was 2021. Yep. Yeah, those opportunities, they don't come around often. You got to seize them when they present themselves.
Yeah, and I certainly hope it presents itself real soon, because we can use that, no question. And like you said, we should be expecting it, and I think we are. So can't wait to see you guys put out your official preview show of the season. That'll be coming up soon, so I'm looking forward to watching that and seeing you guys talk about the basketball team all season. That's there are a lot of games. What are there? 28 games?
There is 31 regular season games.
31.
And then the postseason tournaments, you have your Big Ten tournament, and then you have whatever you end up making, whether it be the NIT, whether it be the NCAA tournament. It's an awesome season. I just love that there's 2-3 games a week sometimes, so you have something to look forward to a few times a week rather than just once a week.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's about 35, give or take. So, yeah, I can't wait. And next month, Rutgers will be playing some big games, including Ohio State. So that's the next time we're going to be doing a post-game show. Will be the first Saturday in November. And Rutgers basketball, when do they play?
It's a big weekend that weekend. The first basketball game of the season is a neutral site game against Princeton on November 6th. Tickets are still available. It's basically the only affordable ticket left on the available for purchase. If you want to go to a basketball game at the Rack, you're gonna pay through the nose for it. But the tickets are still pretty widely available for the Rutgers Princeton game. So buy your tickets now while they're still available. But outside of that, you're going to be paying a lot of money to see Rutgers basketball this year because they are sold out of every game. There's a wait list for season tickets right now. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. So.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome. That's great. What a weekend. Ohio State, and then kick off the college basketball season a couple of days later. Where's the game?
The game's in Cure Arena in Trenton.
Oh, who plays there? Anyone?
Nobody does. It's a multi-purpose arena that Rutgers and Princeton are playing the renewal of the rivalry at.
Awesome. Love it. Great first week in November. There you go.
Yep.
So when we talk again on November 4th, we will have, again, I'm not sure you're going to be on. The only way you're going to be on November 4th is if they beat Ohio State, because I'm going to make sure Richie sets it up. I'm going to say, I want this post game on site with the fans, enjoying yourself, because look, it's not going to happen. The odds of it happening are going to be pretty high, but we can dream. And I want to prepare for the dream in case the dream happens. So we take advantage of the dream as best as possible. So hopefully I see you in 2 weeks, because if not, then I'll see you, I guess, after that when who's after that? Is that Iowa after that?
After that, they play at Iowa on November 11th. They play at Penn State the following week, November 18th. They close the season at home versus Maryland on November 25th. None of those times have been announced yet. The Ohio State game should get announced this week. Typically, it's, I believe, 11 days ahead of a game. They typically announce the times. So that should be Tuesday or Wednesday normally. So we shall see. Hopefully it's not a new game.
You'll have a video out on Tuesday, right?
We will have a recap. Yep, we'll talk some basketball. I'm sure there's some recruiting stuff that'll come up. Unsure the full bye week schedule, but we will have plenty of content for you guys like always. But I want to thank everybody for coming on here. We had a pretty big crowd for this post-game show. I want to thank anybody who has liked, rated, reviewed, subscribed. donated in the chat, commented. You guys are awesome. We really appreciate you guys joining us. We love doing this, and it wouldn't be nearly as fun if we didn't have engagement and if we didn't have you guys here along with us. So I want to thank you guys sincerely for joining us each and every week.
Absolutely appreciate it, Mike. Thanks for doing this, and I'll hopefully see you in a couple of weeks. But we'll talk soon. We'll talk in November. I know that for sure.